Hey, it's Edge Radio Australia. How you doing? Malloy here, pressing the buttons. To my left, the fantastic Jarek Whittaker, mate. Good to have you here. Very, very good to have you here.
Always awesome to be here.
Oh, mate, always a pleasure. Now, the pleasure obviously goes downhill from this point as I introduce the gentleman to my left, right out, quite frankly. It is Travis Carter. Mate, great to have you here today, mate.
Oh, it's actually fun. It looks like the tech might actually be working for a change, which is kind of amazing.
Who's in charge of the tech? Just clarify this, okay?
Not me.
I think it's the gremlins in the computer that is actually in charge of it, because they're the ones that say, right, this is going to work today. Nah, we don't like it today. No. It's not working.
To clarify, you are in charge of the tech, but that's okay. Yeah. It's all right. Okay. Now, we're going to be talking money, and we're going to be talking about this great new show that we're doing here. It's called The Greater Wealth. Now, I love the name because, quite frankly, it brings up some connotations to me. But Derek, hey, it's your show, mate. You tell me what it means to you.
Well, look, if you're going to do something if you're going to build wealth, you've got to do something different if you're not already wealthy.
Absolutely.
Okay? And there are things that you can do that, are a mainstream way of doing things, and there are other ways of doing things that you can do, but the wealthy actually do it. What makes more sense is to do it how the wealthy actually do that.
You would think so.
But it's got to be greater than that. Making money for the sake of making money is a really pointless exercise, because it doesn't motivate me enough personally.
Completely agree with you on that one.
You just go, yeah, okay, that's great, but why? And I think a lot of that comes down to, what is it that you're supposed to be doing with your life? And if you're fulfilling that and that God-given assignment, well, it's a greater wealth. Because here's the thing, my life assignment is bigger than my wallet. I can't afford it.
No, you can't afford it.
I cannot afford it.
Then why are we talking? Get the hell out of here. I mean, come on.
But what I do is acquire it by faith, and that's where it's a greater wealth.
Very, very
I was
good
going
point.
to say I can't afford my ex-wife, but hey. Too early?
Yeah, none of us can. None of us can. I tell you, okay, well, look, I'm excited about the show. I like the fact that we're here, and we're not just talking about how to make money. Okay, we're talking about how to make lifestyle, I guess, and how to give you the freedom. Am I pressing too many buttons here? To me, this means this show is about creating that freedom so you can live your best life.
Freedom's going to be, look, I agree with you. Freedom's going to be defined very differently for different people.
Absolutely.
I used to work in the high-end law, accounting, financial planning firms, and they all came in and said, we want financial freedom. And I'd have to go, okay, well, what does that mean for you?
Yeah. And
it would mean totally different things for different people. What probably most common was people would come in and say, I want to have the choice whether I want to work or not. That was a big one.
Yeah, okay.
For some people, it would be, I want to retire an X amount of dollars. Others, it would be, I want to do this business that they want to do. But it's different for everybody, because everybody has a different life assignment.
Absolutely.
Would
Absolutely.
it be fair then, like just talking to the people watching online, would it be fair then to say the first step to achieving that freedom is actually finding out what their purpose or what their goal is, what it looks like to be financially free?
Oh, I 100% agree with you, Travis. Totally agree with you. The more clear you're on that, the increased likelihood that you actually achieve that. And
absolutely.
What I used to find is that I would ask people, I got to a point in those firms where I would ask the question, before we start, do you mind if I ask you, what do you see as your life purpose? Now, it would throw people as a deep and meaningful curveball, right? After you've done the T's and crossed.
I thought it was pay taxes and die, but okay.
That's it. And that, and that's the thing. Most people are on that merry-go-round, right? And they've never thought about it. You're absolutely right. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you spending 40 to 60 hours a week working as hard as you are?
It's crazy. It really is crazy. I mean, people do it to keep the roof over their head, obviously look after their family, all that sort of thing. But there's a way of achieving both. Let's face it. You can actually achieve what you're there on the old earth to do. And for that matter, what will make you happy. Because if you're going to be there 40, 50 hours a week, be happy at it, right? Yeah.
Be fulfilled. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I agree.
Talking of being happy, I just did a quick sound check. Sounds amazing.
Sounds amazing. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, no. Checking my phone, making sure that it's coming through all good on the socials, on the YouTube, and all that sort of stuff. So,
I assumed you just run off to the loo, but okay.
No. That was a while ago.
Glad you got it covered, mate. Fantastic. Now, all right. Now, last week we were talking about China, and I don't want to go too deeply into this, but I'm going to throw some of my little personal experience forward here. We were talking about the fact that with BlackRock and quite frankly the economy looks like it's on the edge of collapse, right? In a lot of ways because of all the borrowed money and
printed money.
Now, I actually saw some because of this, mate. I believe you. Trust me. I mean, you're a very, believable guy. But I also went and did my own research as well, because I like to, it's good to go and back things up, get different opinions. Okay. It's a great thing to do. So I went and watched some YouTube videos, did a little reading, checked all those sorts of things. And I was blown away. Like, I didn't realize this in the China situation. The amount of money that Chinese banks only have to hold in the banks is 11.67% of what they're lending out.
Yeah.
Whoa!
Well, that's the whole banking system.
Yeah, and I didn't fully appreciate that. That's basically near enough to 1/10 of what they're holding of your money. The rest of it's out there.
This is why a run on the bank absolutely freaks me out.
Oh, well, that's obviously what's going on in China at the moment. And with the misinformation through social media, and apparently, you can't get your money out because the websites are down. The websites have been down for 2.5 weeks, all of that. So what I'm getting at is, this is a great show, mate. And I really, I think your advice rather is very valuable, because, as I say, it sent me out on that journey. I thought I knew a thing or two, but
there's a lot going on that when you discover it, it changes the whole way you look at life. It just opens, you go, oh, you see how the game is played. And this is why I always come to people and say, if you treat this as a game, you're more likely to win. And it takes a lot of the emotion, because people get very emotional about money.
Yeah.
And so I look at it, even this morning, there was something I was dealing with. I was going, how am I going to deal with this? And you just have to, the pressure's on, the kids aren't well, my wife is really tired having to look after children and all this sort of stuff. And I'm going, okay, pressure point. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do. Okay, it's just a problem to solve. And when you disassociate it with your mindset, it changes the whole game.
Very true.
When you see the bigger overall picture of where things are going, you can position yourself strategically in that game and go, all right, I see opportunity here.
Yep.
I'm concerned about risk there. And this is how I'm going to manage risk, et cetera, et cetera. It's really fun.
I think in life, I'm certainly no financial guru by any stretch of imagination, but as far as life, I see lots of things coming along, and people can go, oh, that's, it's hit me. It's hit me hard. I often say, hey, no, that's an opportunity. And I think that's for me, that works. Keeps me up and kicking. And I think maybe that translates to finance.
I love that mindset. It is. That's exactly the way to frame it. And you go, okay, we've been hit by this. Where do I need to improve, or how can I make this even better? And that was one thing that happened in my business one time. Client decided not to pay me. I said, Derek, you got some holes in the way you transact with people. This is your opportunity to improve that system. And since then, I've had very few problems.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
One of the other things I found, so for the listeners, they probably don't know, I had an extremely severe motorbike accident in 2015. My right leg doesn't actually work.
So this brain damage that he's got,
believe it or not, no brain damage yet. That happened before the motorbike accident. No. So a lot of people, we didn't have an option. Because I couldn't work. I still haven't worked a proper job for nearly 8 years. So we had to remove the blinkers, especially in society. They've got all these things like, go finish school, go get your degree, go work 9 to 5, buy a house, pay it off, and then once you're retired, you go buy another house with what you finally started to save.
Yep.
We didn't have that option. Like, this is me and my current wife, Lauren. So
don't say current wife, just say wife. It's a good way to go.
Yeah, wife. Yeah. Well, I have been married twice. So I just want to make sure we're talking about the correct one.
Yeah, but current suggests there might be a third. I'm just saying. Okay.
Not in my design.
I'm teasing you. Get on with it. Jeez.
Anyway, so with Luan and I, we didn't have an option to do the 9 to 5. So we had to get very, very creative, and we were able to do that. So I think what's also really important is for people, just going back to what Aaron and that was saying, is to get that freedom, financial freedom, you've got to stop thinking, right, Nana and Pop won't like this, or Mum doesn't like that, so we have to do this. You've got to start realizing what is best for you and your family.
Spot on.
What is best for your lifestyle choices, what is best for you, and tell everyone else to go get nicked. I think that's a big part that people are really, really struggling with.
Look, I think one of the best things that come out of COVID, if we can say best things, is exactly that. Is people have been asking themselves, why am I doing what I'm doing?
Yeah.
They had time to go home, stay home. The weird thing is everybody wants to stay home, right? And then when you're forced to stay home, people whinge about that.
Oh, so absolutely.
People have had chance.
Aaron.
People have had a chance to stay home and think about
freedom.
It. And that's really powerful in the sense that, look, what do I really, really want to do? But you're exactly right. Life sometimes doesn't work out the way you planned or think. When you start thinking outside the box, people are not going to get it. I can guarantee it's right. People will not understand. Even people who are really, really close to you will not understand.
Here is my advice to everybody out there in the big bad world. Okay, you know what? With the box, throw the box away. Okay, throw it away.
Roll it into a ball, set it on fire, throw it out the window, and then watch Scott Morrison panic about a bushfire. Oh, too early.
Yeah, exactly. I've got the right shirt on for Scotty Morrison, but never mind. All right, finance. Let's talk about it now. As I say, I indulged myself by watching those YouTube videos, and I found it really, really good. It just actually reaffirmed, the things you were saying in the stats, and for me, that was really, really good. So I encourage anyone. This goes with this show, with any show, quite frankly. Don't listen to the left. Don't listen to the right. Listen to yourself. Go out and seek the information. Listen to a bit of this, bit of that, and use this bit of grey matter you've got there. Absolutely.
I'm really glad that you went out and did that because, it
just shows anyone can do it. If Aaron can do it, anyone can do it.
You shouldn't just trust what the media tells you. You should do your own research because if the truth will stay, right?
Yeah.
If it's the truth, it's going to come through. It'll shine through. If it's not, drops by the wayside, you can see through it.
Yep.
That's really good.
Completely agree. All right, let's take a little break, guys. Okay, a little break, and we'll be back with more of the show. Now, what's it called again?
The Greater Wealth.
I've been going down the rabbit hole of YouTube finance videos.
I thought you were on, you'd actually gone to Segway school, but okay. Right,
no.
Right.
It was a good segue. A little bit forced, but good. But there was a really interesting thing, and one of the big things I'm very strong and aware of, you can't just put all your eggs in one basket. The power of number one is dangerous. If there's only one source of income in the house, you're just setting yourself up for failure. So Australia has done exactly that. They've put so many eggs into the Chinese basket. If China goes down, our economy as a whole, to me, is in a lot of trouble. But this is where, as much as I don't like Scott Morrison, I think he was a weak leader. His decision to strike up trade deals with India was actually a really, really good idea, because I was watching a video, especially about how China has been building the Belt and Road Initiative and trying to trap all the trade especially in the Indian Ocean. There's three real avenues where you can actually get into the Asian corridors. And they've intentionally struck up deals and construction projects around those areas so they can actually have a total stranglehold. If it does get to the point where they start a war with Taiwan or anything like that, they can actually stop probably 80% of the trade within the world just by choking those three locations, and Australia is going to suffer because of it. What I find really fascinating is the steps that India has taken quietly, not telling all the world about it. They've just quietly done a whole heap of different things, very similar to what the Chinese are doing, to counter what the Chinese are doing.
Indians are smart. They are my people, so
Oh, that's right. You are Indian, aren't you?
Yes.
I keep forgetting that.
Yeah.
Because you're so albino. I keep forgetting that you are Indian. Full...
Yeah. I'm. What does my mate call me? He calls me a Jaffa. Okay, I'm chocolate on the inside.
Oh,
yes. Hey. You know what's funny about that?
Our South African listeners, no, he did not say that.
Oh, really? Is that
really bad?
I took that as a compliment.
No, in South Africa, it's really bad.
Because my mate's a Maori, right? So we joke around like on the Karen because that's what Aussies and Kiwis do.
So he's a statue. Statue.
Anyway, sorry, you were saying before I rudely interrupted with facts.
Well, there's three canals would probably be the best word for it, because obviously most shipping or moving goods from one country to another is actually done through trade lines.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the big initiative with the Belt and Roads Initiative was about. It was to re-establish the old trade wind Chinese trade routes. Well, that's what they claimed it was about. So obviously going through from the Black Sea into the Indian Ocean, there's another one down near the Caribbean. Is it the Caribbean off the coast of South Africa? And there's another one.
Caribbean? South Africa?
Is that the one? No. I'm way off. My geography is terrible.
You're in the whole wrong...
Madagascar.
Right.
Madagascar.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen the film.
Weird little animals.
Talking about the Suez Canal, that's the big one to connect Asia and Africa through to Europe.
Yep.
That's the big strategic.
And then there's another one
through Malacca.
Malacca. And there's another one in Indonesia.
Right.
Between the island of Sumatra and I think it's the south coast of China, towards where Vietnam is.
Okay.
So there's three, they're the major ones, and they cut off about 80% of all trade within the Southeast Asian area.
Gotcha.
So what's happened is obviously, especially through Malaysia, and a whole heap of other places in the Southeast Asia and the Indonesian islands. China has a lot of trade bases in there, which can double up as military bases. The port of Darwin in Australia. I think it's Kenya. No, Omar. I think it's Omar. They've got another base there, which they can use as a military base as well. And there's another one in South Africa area. Like it's on the north. I think it's Zimbabwe from memory.
Okay, enough geography. What's it mean?
So pretty much the moment China decides, you know what, we're going to take Taiwan. I don't think it's a case of if they are. I personally think it's when they are.
Yeah.
When they decide, you know what, we're going to take Taiwan. The biggest problem, what happens at that point is, do the people who come in to try and help Taiwan, like what's happened over in Ukraine, do the people that are trying to enable Taiwan to stay a democratic country, where are they going to be? Where are they going to be based from? How's Taiwan going to get resources in when China has a stranglehold on those 3 points?
Absolutely. Okay.
So then if they do cause a blockade in those 3 areas, how's Australia don't get our oil? Yes, we do have it in the ground, but we don't refine it.
That's right.
How we don't get our steel. Again, we've got it in the ground in iron ore and coal, but we don't refine it.
Yeah, because we've sent it all off to China.
Food, we send it all away.
Yeah.
Like all our natural resources, there's not much of it we actually produce into a usable product in Australia. Most of it we ship out, and then we ship in what we need. We are at the absolute mercy at that point of China.
Of course we are.
We are in a lot of trouble. And actually, you know what? I love to bring it up. Pauline Hanson from One Nation has been very, very adamant. We need to have 90 days of reserves for oil, diesel, fuel, and all that sort of stuff.
Thoroughly agree, yeah.
I think at one point we're down to like 15 days of reserves, which is alarming to say the least. So we needed another trade partner who has an economy that is potentially as big as China's. And so this is where I have to give credit to Scott Morrison, because he actually actively sought out one of the largest emerging economies within the Southeast Asian area.
For sure.
And that is India.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I've heard this argument before, why is India and Indonesia the 2 big emerging economies in Southeast Asia? When you have a look at it, let's say you got 1 billion people.
Yep.
And they pay $1,000 tax a year.
Okay.
And that's $1 trillion economy.
Good man.
Straight off the bat, just with the people. Now, imagine with these economies, things are getting better. The less poor people, the gap between the lower class citizens and the upper class citizens get narrower, narrower, narrower.
Yep.
All of a sudden, this $1 billion people, instead of paying $1,000 a year tax, are now paying $40,000 a year tax.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you imagine what would happen to that economy?
Huge economy growth.
It'd be absolutely out of control. So, and that's what's happening to China at the moment. And so, what's happening is because all these people are like them. I've heard that there's more millionaires made in China every day compared to the rest of the world. It's just because their economy is going absolutely out of control. The problem is they've built it very fragilely. They've had a lot of finances, a lot of the building industry. They're just building out of control because they know it's going to sell. But the problem is those companies that are building it are falling down, and all of a sudden all these buildings and industries and infrastructure that's been built on bamboo effectively are going to start falling down. So when it falls down, what's going to happen? So India, on the other hand, they've very strategically made alliances with Japan, obviously Australia. So when I say alliances, I'm talking about financial trade deals and stuff like that. The country that's north of Omar, I forget what it is. Again, my geography is terrible. So they've actually gone out and sought all these countries around these choke points and started making trade deals with them. So, for example, off the coast of Japan, they've got a military sharing agreement. So not only Japanese warships and all that can actually port into India, refuel and restock for weapons, ammunitions and all that sort of stuff, Indian warships can do the same into Japan.
Right.
There's obviously Australia. We've got the trade agreement now with India. So they've turned around and they've actually set up not only around all these choke points, but they've also gone and set up all these trade agreements with countries around China itself. A big one of those is Russia and Mongolia,
right,
which is directly north of China.
Yeah, okay.
So they're calling it the diamond necklace.
Okay.
So I won't say the other necklace.
No.
We're trying to keep it clean.
Let's move on. Yeah.
I find it really fascinating the differences in the 2 economies on how they have actually approached the same issue.
nations are jostling for position and economic advantage and also military advantage and their interests. One of the big challenges that India has had for international enterprise is taxes. So the tariffs, the import duties as well, has actually made companies like Nokia pull out, Vodafone from England pull out. And that's something that they've really needed to address. A lot of their political campaigns are based on economic income. But what they've got to look at closely moving forward is how they deal with the issue of tariffs, GST, and all that. What will happen is entrepreneurs will go two things. One, where low taxation is, and two, where there's less red tape. So the easiest is to conduct business and just get on with what they do, make profit. That's where they want to go, especially with big business. What's interesting about China is it started, of course, in the late 70s with where it was going. And it really focused on low labor force, right, in terms of jobs and that sort of stuff. It was a manufacturing, and it did low-end type of manufacturing. What's happened in China is that's starting to change, particularly with technological advancements, and now getting into high-tech sort of stuff where you see big ticket items and that sort of stuff being manufactured there now too. India is kind of trying to pick up where it was in terms of the low-end type manufacturing process and that sort of thing, but it's a different economy. It does things quite differently than what China does. You often hear, the service centers where you have somebody picking up in a phone center in India and that sort of stuff. It's had a little bit of a different bent. Can it go the path that China has? Probably not, because of technology. So it's going to have to pave a different sort of thing. But it's certainly a country that's quietly kind of going under the radar. It's about round about in the top 10 in terms of economic output. It's going to be interesting where India plays in this whole game.
I'm going to throw something a bit left to field here. I wonder if the class structures in India versus China have got a lot to play with on this one, because in India it's a very, very structured society. Okay, like there's effectively steps kind of thing, and you're not allowed to cross. In a lot of people, I've had friends from India who literally are not allowed to be friends with people of a different class. Right.
I've got a story about that for you in a minute.
Okay. Could the development could have had something to do with the fact that China had such a massive gap? I mean, there wasn't really a middle class before China, as I understand it. Am I wrong?
I think you've definitely that caste issue is certainly a play in India. Second to that, also is the female workforce is a lot lower in India as well as it than in China. So there's a lot more stay-at-home mums and women who aren't getting into that. Also, India has a very strong agricultural output as well, which kind of leans towards families being able to stay on the land more, and whether women are recognised for the input of work in those spaces is question the stats on that. Is
that maybe why they're so strong in the textile industries and that sort of thing, and that level of manufacturing
in India?
In India, yeah. Okay.
I mean, I'll give you an example. India is the biggest wig makers, right? In terms of hair manufacturing.
Call me now.
They actually produce a lot of human hair. In terms of producing wigs.
Sounds weird. I've purchased some human hair.
What that industry's challenge is actually they can't get enough human hair to make the demand on the wigs, so they try to import.
It's all Aaron's fault.
They try to import those goods, and the struggle they're having is because of all the tax duties and tariffs. What India is doing is they want to get it locally sourced. They're trying to protect their local industry and sourcing it. But if they want to go to the next level and bigger, that a lot of economists are questioning, can you keep doing that without having trade partners involved? It's getting harder to do so. So they're a space to watch.
Okay, yeah. Funny enough, many years ago, an Indian friend of mine was telling me about the basically the recycling industry in India and how that actually exploded, and that came from ships of all things, ships all around the world being finished up with being used, wanting to recycle them. Now every other country you have to put them in, dry dock, pull them in, all the big costs and all that sort of thing, and then they'd bring them up and then they'd disassemble them. Whereas, and this is sounds ridiculous to say, but India just went, no worries. What they did is literally aim them at the shore at high speed, boom, put them down on full throttle and crash them right on the shore. Simple as that. Saved them millions of dollars on dry docking each one of them, and then of course they literally just disassemble them where they are.
Well, you're done is throw them anyway, so who cares?
Yeah. But,
so make sure they clear the beach first. So that airport that's right into the beach. It's like, and then you're sunbaking, and all of a sudden they see this big massive oil tanker come flying out. It's like,
a mate of mine who's a rally driver in India was
he driving the ships?
No, he wasn't driving the ships. He was actually a factory driver for the JK rally team. JK. Anyway, point being is he actually sent me a video once of them just planting this thing and aiming it towards the ocean, from the ocean rather into the coast. And I thought, this is many, many years ago. I thought, what in the world is this? It's genius is what it is, because they saved so much money and they made themselves, again, cutting down the red tape and all that sort of carry on, because quite frankly, human life isn't seen the same way as it is in Western economies. And yeah, that is what, in his opinion, and maybe he's right or wrong, I don't know, jumpstart the economy massively in India. So there you go.
So, and just the sheer number of people that they have. So in Australia, if we had to dismantle a ship, when you look at labor laws and all everything else that goes with it, it would cost an absolute fortune over here. And just because there's so many people over there, like the workforce is so massive. And Elon Musk was, when he was talking about when he was taking over Twitter and about going to having all these AI manufacturing going through, like the question was, what about the workers? Is there going to be massive job loss? And he says, well, globally, there's such a shortage of manual labor that it doesn't really matter. So it's actually going to be solving more problems than what it's going to be causing.
So explain that to me.
So look at mining.
Yep.
Let's say you're a third world country. You're just throwing hundreds of thousands of people out of job.
Yep.
We can't do that in Australia. We just don't have the workers for it. Have a look at NWA at the moment. So the menial repetitious tasks, like you're making number plates or something like that. So instead of hiring someone to do that when we're already short on workforce, Elon Musk is saying all those jobs where you don't really need a human to be sitting there doing the job, you can just get an AI computer to go do the job for you.
Okay.
So that's what he was arguing, saying that the workforce is massively short in Australia. Not just Australia, in the world as a whole. So going back to that economy, one thing I've really noticed looking at the Indian economy versus the Chinese economy, they've just gone full steam ahead. Just we'll deal with the problems later on, where I found that India takes a different approach to it.
Right.
First of all, they've protected their own interests. Once they get to the point where they're starting to look to expand, then they've actually taken a very measured response to it. They haven't just gone straight into it. So it's probably slowed them down in the long run, but I think what's going to happen is they'll actually stabilize their economy a lot more moving forward. And this is just, especially with this current trade deal with Australia that's coming through, you're seeing that they are starting to branch out to other countries. They are starting to lift some of those tariffs to other countries, but they seem to be doing it in a measured approach rather than just throwing everything out and hoping that'll work. So that's the big difference I've found with the two.
India's history, I mean, you got to remember, it was a huge trading partner with the British Empire.
Of course, absolutely.
Right? So they're used to dealing with other nations. What happened was around that time when the British Empire ended, a lot of those countries, China included, turned inward. They became, how do we do this rather than dealing with other partners? We were a bit more self-sufficient, which slowed their economy growth in terms on the international front quite significantly. China came out of that more. They actually studied Singapore and how they did that back in the late 70s. So, and they copied a lot of that model because China was doing that. You see Taiwan doing that at that time, etc. So it's like learning from each other and going, right, we're going to go back and do it better. Or on mass scale. And
that's one of the things that I'm quite confident in the Indian economy and how fast they can actually get things done. So that's another thing that I'm really, really interested in. So I don't think Australia, even if China does absolutely flatline, absolutely destroys their own economy, everything falls over, another 2007 GFC, global financial crisis, I think there are trade partners that we can use that are right on our doorsteps. India is one of them. Indonesia is another one. Vietnam for manufacturing is another country that I think Australia as a whole, again, getting away from that number one. We need to start looking to stabilize our international exports and imports with other countries, not just focusing solely on China.
Well, we did that with the UK as well. When Brexit happened, there was a lot of, ScoMo flew over to see Boris Johnson. Did some deals and all that sort of stuff too. So I think Australia suddenly woke up to that and go, well, we're vulnerable here. I think that's starting to just, of course it takes time. It takes time for these big industries to come up and scale. I mean, the United States, is trying to get get to semiconductor manufacturing back on shore. They're about 5 years away from where it actually is right now to get those factories operating to the degree and the precision of what the current microchips can actually output from the factories in Taiwan.
Because that was actually a really interesting webinar that you did on the massive shortage of computer chips around the world. So it was actually really fascinating. So where can people watch that one, Derek?
That is a question you'd have to ask the group that produced that, because I don't think it's a public video. It's actually
GWC thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, that was a really, really good one. So I'll
Yeah.
put a link in the comments for that one later, because that was
Cool.
yeah, it was fascinating. There was like a series of events that all these things happened at the same time, which caused massive problems for manufacturing computer chips.
Yeah.
And the session was called, what was it? All About the Chips.
Where are the chips?
Where are the
Who's
chips?
got-
I'm going to use personal experience as a how do I word this? As what we did to find alternative streams of income.
Okay.
So when I first had my accident, you got to remember I was in a wheelchair, so I couldn't go up and down stairs. I couldn't do things like a second job. I couldn't do a first job.
Yep.
So Luan actually started working out at a cafe part time.
Yep.
She was, by the way, when I had my accident, my youngest daughter was only 7 weeks old.
Whoa.
So she was still recovering from a cesarean. She shouldn't have been working, but she got up and started working part time when she could. And I have to give kudos to Patrick, who was her boss. Anytime she could work, he put her on. Anytime, like, he was just awesome, really great. So that was near the cafe next to the IGA in Wilson. If you are down that way, say hi to Patrick.
Yep.
I don't even know if he still owns the cafe. It was great. So that was the first thing that we did. Especially with people who have lost their jobs. Second thing, straight away, jump onto Centrelink and just say, look, I've lost my job. This is where we're at. Help. Because the government does help people out. There's a lot of sources of income that they don't realize they can apply. A lot of people are too proud to ask for help. That was the first thing that we had to learn.
One of the great things about this country is we do have that backup system, and that is a great thing. You know, people are not thrown out on the street, not straight away anyway.
No. That's just once you disclose your personal opinion, that's when they start throwing you out. So no, if you are in a situation where you have lost your job, something like that, the first thing you got to do is actually hit up the government, because there's so many programs, systems in place to try and help people to prevent them being homeless. The biggest one that I actually got a free bookkeeping course through Centrelink, which really helped me to keep my paperwork in order, which without that, I don't think I'd be able to do what I'm doing now.
I can't do bookkeeping. I don't even have a bookcase, so I can't do it.
Yep. I love libraries now. One of my goals is I want to build a library with manuscripts and all that sort of stuff. So once I went through a lot of my rehab and that, I could walk again. So I started, I sat down and said, all right, what do I enjoy doing? And a lot of people don't go, what? You can actually get paid for doing that? For a long time, I was getting paid to play computer games.
Yeah. Yes.
So if you are a computer game nerd who can sit there and do the same thing like hours, and you got to remember, I was on like 800 milligrams of tramadol at that time. I was an absolute space cadet, so looking at a dot on the wall for like 12 hours at a time was fine. I could do that. So there's
This is just his social life, mind you, but okay.
So there's a game called Entropia Universe, which actually pays you in US dollars to actually play the game. You go out there, you grind, and because they get paid by advertising revenue from things like listening to radio programs while you're playing the computer game. So there's a radio station that plays ads inside the computer game that used to pay me US dollars every day. It wasn't much. It was about $30 US a week. But when you convert that into Australian currency, that's like $9,000 Australian dollars. No. But when you're thinking about it, because it's such a left field source of income, the government has no idea how to deal with it. So they just sort of write it off as a hobby.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's all these little things that you can pick up as a hobby. Another friend of ours, during the mandate, she lost her job. She didn't want to get the jab.
Yep.
She loved baking. Like she was just an absolute wizard when it comes to the kitchen. So I said, look, start baking cakes. And so what she did, she started putting these cakes up on Facebook. Like every single day she'd bake a cake. She loved it. And she used to give it to her neighbors and all that sort of stuff. I said, okay, instead of giving it to your neighbors, chuck it up on Facebook. Hey, this is the cake I baked today. Materials were $10, $30. Yep. And people were buying these cakes off her. So she now runs a cake baking business through Facebook.
I think very straightforward. This is what we've been talking about. Like, you find your passion here and you do what you love, you know, whether it be your main hustle or a side hustle. So it's so good to do that.
With me now, so I thoroughly enjoyed, record. I'm not a photographer. I'm not a cameraman. I'm not any good with that. I just love fiddling with cameras and the tech side of things and taking photos. You like
fiddling with things, yes.
I just love fiddling with things, full stop. So I have no idea how it actually happened. Someone found out that I actually had a half decent camera. They asked me to do a broadcast for a show. For a long time, I was helping out. I was a presenter at 89.7, and then after that, it was I was the I don't know, producer's the right word. I was helping out with Camcast TV.
Yep.
And then from there, someone just reached out and said, hey, look, we need to broadcast a webinar. And so I went out, I recorded it, sent it to Zoom for all the people listening online for them. And then all of a sudden that landed me a gig getting a fortnightly income, which is actually nearly the same as what the wife was earning out the education department. And I do insanely less hours. It's all working from home. So I just followed what I enjoyed doing. And I think what happens is when you're doing what you actually enjoy at the start, you may not be getting paid a lot of money for it, but people see that you thoroughly enjoy what you're doing. You actually dedicate. And when you're doing what you love, it's not a job.
That's right.
So I can't tell you how many hours a week I do on it because I just don't know. I just do it as it comes up. Oh, I get to do this. And so then I start doing it.
But your lifestyle's got so much better when you are being paid for your passion rather than paid to survive.
And that's the great thing about in Australia. So the other thing that we did is, have you ever heard of the term a dollar saved is a dollar earned?
Yes.
So we immediately got rid of everything, all our credit cards and personal loans, because I did get a bit of a payout after the accident. So we cleared everything. We made sure that we did not take a single thing on finance. We didn't do store cards. If we could pay something up front in its entirety instead of paying monthly and having those extra charges on top of it, we're like, right, that saved us $54 in our insurance. That's $54 I don't have to earn. So by doing that, we were able to reduce our expenses. So now we can actually survive quite comfortably on about $30,000 a year. And I don't know many people that can do that. And
That's
also
great.
the fact that even myself and Luan drink is probably also a really big thing. Unless it's White Russians.
I'm coughing in the background here right now. And I want to laugh at that. Yes. He drinks White Russians. He's a very strange man. It's just,
Well, beer makes me, because of the tramadols and the hard medication I've had, it's something with my stomach. The moment I have a beer, I throw up. I just cannot drink beers. And when Aaron chuffs the purple sicky punch, no.
oh, come off. That is so not even remotely true, but okay.
No. So, yeah, I can't drink beer anymore.
Right.
Haven't smoked cigarettes for over 20 years. I'm only 38, but that just shows Australian culture.
So don't waste your money on rubbish is what you're trying to say.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, having a wife that is an absolute stellar cook, like Luan's just phenomenal when it comes to cooking. We generally will go out to dinner and it's like, oh, you know what, Luan's a better cook than half the chefs in Perth. So cough to get off.
Right. Now, enough of your cooking show. This is not, low end's kitchen show here. Let's talk about money.
Other one that I've just come across.
It is like baptizing a cat, honestly, dealing with him. It really is.
I've been doing food deliveries.
You have?
Are we allowed to say the name?
Yes, dude.
Uber. Yeah, Uber Foods. Or what is it? Uber Eats. You really are dying, aren't you?
Have some water.
He's choked the cat. I mean, but yeah, no,
Get
it's
a new host.
the scary thing is, I've been doing Uber Eats deliveries for 3 weeks now. It's actually pays an insane amount of money for what you're doing, and it's
Just primarily driving around.
literally we drive to Macca's or some foodery. I'm naturally nocturnal. You'll very, very rarely look at my tan. Look at this. I'm not white. I'm pink. I'm
You're translucent. I'm looking at the poster behind you through you. Yes.
Yeah, it's shocking. So I hate the sun. I think the sun is. Anyway, I don't tan. I go pink, even pinker. So this works well. I get home. I'm not tired. I'm like, you know what? I'm bored. I want to listen to some music. So I'll just go turn the app on my phone and go drive around for an hour or so and walk away with $60-$70.
So what you're trying to say to us is okay, don't have to be a traditional way of making an income. Okay,
No.
If you're making an income that suits your lifestyle, again, we're talking about creating wealth so you can enjoy your lifestyle, or cutting your costs so you can enjoy your lifestyle. Right? It's not all about that.
I think
9 to 5.
one of the things that I'm teaching my kids is sell something. Sell stuff, because that's what a business is, right?
I am.
So it can be a service. All a business does is we complicate business in our mindset. All a business does is provide solutions.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're doing here is business. It's providing you a different alternative viewpoint as to what's actually going on in the world.
Yeah, very
as far as the media space is concerned. And I think we complicate it. What I love is, so I've been saying to my son, he wants to make more money and this sort of stuff. So I think, okay, sell something. So he convinced mum to make some cookies last week, took him to his homeschool Wednesday group, had him out there, and he made $6 profit from that.
Good
right?
stuff.
That's fantastic. But he also got at the same time a whole swag of birthday money. It was his birthday recently.
Right.
And so I said to him, I had to take him to an appointment the other day, and he always hits me up for, Dad, can we go to a cafe? His stomach drives it. I said to him, look, Evan, instead of us going to a cafe, how would you feel if we bought silver coins instead of that?
Right.
And he said, I told him why. I said, look, you will spend that money and you won't see it again. And I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. If you do that and agree to that, I'll actually put in money and you can have two. Okay, so now silver at the moment, roughly on the market is about, if you're buying the coins, it's roughly about $30 Australian.
Okay.
So I
That's
said,
not bad.
no, it's yeah. And
So,
so I said to him, look, I'll buy you a coin as well. So went online, showed him how to do it, sort of stuff, ordered it. So what I'm doing there is teaching him not only business on how to sell stuff, but also investing.
Absolutely.
Now, here's the other part he's doing. So we went on a farm recently and he picked up a ram skull, right? Brought it home, asked the farmer if he could take it, all this sort of stuff. Yep, no worries. And then he puts it up on Gumtree and he's trying to sell it. So he's had a bite and somebody's coming over tomorrow to have a look at it and this sort of stuff. And he's already said to me, Dad, if I get this sale, and he's selling it, you know, for a certain price, and he said, if I get the sale, I want to buy another silver coin and then have a bit to do this, and he also tithe to the church and this sort of stuff. So he's already working out the management of that money as well. So teaching our kids this stuff is really important. But I say to people, look at what you've got around you, like in your garage. How much stuff have you got sitting there that people will pay money for, that you go, you know, I'm going to get to that project in 5-7 years or whatever. If you haven't touched it in 12 months, guess what? You're probably not going to get to it.
I'm not going to tell Derek about my piano. But to me, that piano, it doesn't work. I've pulled all the keys off it. I've polished up all, and yes, it is genuine ivory. The piano was made, it's a Blithner piano, same one that the royal family has. It's an 1885 Blithner upright piano. It's older than the Australian government.
It is. Now, we have less than 1 minute left of the show. So, I know. Now, we could go along. We could do that. That's one other option. And
that's the great thing about Edge Radio. Like, we do what we want.
Exactly right. I was just going to say, when you're thinking about what your son's saying about he only made $6 and everything, I'm going to give you a little thing about going to your garage, right? Okay. I had some... we'll say unnecessary expenses a couple of years ago where I needed money and all that sort of thing. Now, divorce, exactly, divorce. And I was able, right, to go and sell things from my shed. Okay. And guess how much money I came up with?
$200 million.
That's quite a shed. I literally made over $20,000 and stuff. That stuff that I haven't used in years, right? And if you haven't used it in years, I like to hold it because I might need that one day, right? Or I really like that. Or when I walk past it, it makes me feel good. You know what? I don't need to walk past it all the time. So yeah, I literally 20 grand's worth of gear. Yeah. So it's there. It's very, very real. Yeah. And stuff that if you haven't used it in a year, then you know what? Move it on.
The other thing that I think is really important, and especially what you're teaching your kid, and I'm trying to teach Celeste this. This is my oldest daughter playing Monopoly. Believe it or not, she's into full corporate contracts where if you land on my property, I'll only charge you 50% rent, but I get to use your house to build hotels and all this sort of stuff. So the big thing is, like, once your basic living is done, like you paid all your standard living bills, everyone has a little bit of surplus. I think what you do with that surplus is what's really, really important. So even though you're just taking small steps now, do something with it that's going to grow your net position. It's not going to, like, going to the cafe spending $7 on a coffee. All that's going to do is make you poop later and the money's gone. So teaching your son to buy the silver coins, I didn't know they were that cheap. So that's another thing that we can start doing, because Celeste, my daughter, is always looking like, oh, I want to buy this, but I don't know if it's going to help me. Like, can I buy a hotel with, and she literally says, can we buy a hotel with it? So knowing the silver coins, I'm going to have to hit you up, show me how to do that.
This is fantastic, though. This is teaching kids at such an early age, those sort of life skills. We do.
And it opens up the conversation, or I can explain to them about inflation. I said, son, if you keep it in cash right now, that's going to deflate. But if you put it in precious metal, more likely to increase right now.
Correct.
It's used as a hedge. You have all those lessons in that purchase.
Believe it or not, we actually do have people listening. So Cecil on the good old YouTube has actually said apparently the Perth Mint Silver, apparently if you buy it in Brisbane, it's actually cheaper by 20%.
Yeah, I don't go through that avenue. I go through a different avenue. Yeah, you can get it cheaper.
So that's the other thing as well. The amount of coupons and all that sort of stuff, like, because especially with COVID, everyone being shut down and And I think this is one of the reasons why Uber Eats, DoorDash, and all those other ones did so well, is because everyone was locked at home. They weren't allowed to get out. So the demand and the understanding, you know what, it's okay to get whiskey delivered to your house. It's okay to get your food shopping delivered to your house now. That whole societal mind, like the paradigm shift, has gone from no, get out of your house and go to the shops yourself to no, it's okay just to get things delivered to yourself now. So I think there's been a massive paradigm shift over the last 2 years thanks to COVID.
Let me just throw in a disclaimer too. I'm not giving financial advice, general, specific, etc. That's what I'm teaching my child.
Exactly. You're talking about your experience.
But you've got to be careful. I've got to teach him this next level and going, hey, dealing with, don't just buy the sun on eBay. You could get ripped off. You've got to deal with reputable. There's a lot of fake gold out there and this sort of stuff. So there's another lesson that you can do.
Very true.
In the marketplace.
Actually, that's a good one as well. Scams that come up. I think we should go into that one at a later show as well. How to spot a scam, especially when it comes to finance. At the moment, Twiggy Forrest is actually suing Facebook, and Zuckerberg is actually doing it through a civil court, not the criminal court.
Yes.
Because Zuckerberg and Facebook won't take actions to stop,
Allegedly.
Twiggy Forrest didn't realize the microphone was on.
Allegedly.
So it's kind of funny, you've made it big when you get that. So obviously I ran out the federal election. Apparently my name started popping up in those scams as well. So it's like nothing is sacred with that. So I think it's really important to actually do a show to educate people on the potential scams that are out there. Had a perler about 2 years ago where the email that came through to my nana, she's like, oh, is this real? And so it was from the bank and everything. It had the bank's letterhead on it, all the links. It was saying, oh, your account's not secure. Please click the link to log into your bank. Anyway, so you click on the terms and conditions down the bottom. It actually takes you to the banks. I won't say the banks because I don't want to get into trouble. Took you to the bank's terms and conditions, and all the links, they did it like a hyperlink from there to one site to the I nearly said the company. So every single link was all correct, but where you log in, it actually brought up the login page. So you do actually log into your bank, but there's a key tracker over the top of it. So they track every single keystroke that was on your thing, and that's how they got in. And it was brilliant. Like, it was really good. And thank Christ I'd sat down with my Nana Pop, because they're in their 80s now. And she was like, oh, this, I don't know, I'll talk to Travis. And so she called me up. I had a look and I was like, holy shit, no, that's massive scam. So some of them are really hard, and we've had other family members get nailed by it. So I think that's something for another
whole
show.
Science for itself.
It really is. All right, I'm going to call it on this show. Right? Okay. But before I do, mate, is there anything you'd like to throw forward that we maybe want to talk about next week?
Next week.
I don't mean to throw that on you. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about right now if you like. But I think, next week, I'm looking forward to the show.
We need to talk about what's happening in September that we're going to be doing together.
Okay, fantastic. We need to really get
September 22nd for the people listening at home.
Lock it in, Eddie.
We're doing a very specialized webinar for Radio Edge Australia listeners and people on social media. That would be awesome. So we can talk about that.
Aaron, this week we need to put the ticketing thingy together so people can start purchasing tickets online.
That is not the royal we, that is you. You need to put that together, make it happen, sunshine.
You're the copywriter.
Oh, Mr. Handpass himself. And with that, I'm going to end the show. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being part of it. Whether you're online, whether you're listening, on Twitch, was it? It was Facebook Live. It was YouTube. It was just about everywhere. And obviously at edgeradioaustralia.com. Thank you very much, Derek, for being part of it as usual. Thank you, Travis, for showing up, mate. I appreciate that too.
Showing up.
Come on. That's about all it's about all you bring to the table. But never mind. We'll be back next week from 1:00 Monday. Have a wonderful week in the meantime, and listen to Edge Radio Australia. Yes, Travis.
What was the show called? Greater Wealth?
The Greater Wealth.
Greater Wealth.
Absolutely.